Huh.
Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
Bare naked, bare naked, bare naked, ABCs. Welcome to the Bare Naked ABCs. And tonight I have with me Heidi and Aaron. We are excited to welcome this week's guest for an interview. From 1985 to 2005, he co-owned his own music video company called Harder Fuller Films. He was in the band Breaking Circus and was the founding member of the band Big Trouble House. He was the director at Quentin Tarantino's A Band Apart, commercials and music videos, where he directed award-winning commercials for clients, including The Gap. He was the cinematographer on the Japanese feature film Yoko, the Cherry Blossom, which was shot in Tokyo. He wrote and directed the movie Tuscaloosa, as well as directing low movie How to Quit Smoking. But the way that you may recognize him, in a way, is that he has made 187 music videos for over 100 different artists. He has worked with such bands as the Jayhawks, Sonic Youth, Soul Asylum, Lisa Loeb doing her most famous song, I Do, Bobby McFerrin, The Cranberries, Foo Fighters, Macy Gray, Incubus, Matchbox 20, Liz Phair, Prince, Hilary Duff, Rob Thomas, and Robert Plant. But the reason we are talking with him tonight, he has directed 6 Bare Naked Ladies videos, as well as 2 Kevin Hearn videos. He has directed more Bare Naked Ladies videos than any other director. And I have to say that some of these videos are not only my favorite B&L videos, but my favorite videos of any band of all time. It is my pleasure tonight to be talking with Phillip Harder.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Hey, Aaron,
Hi, Phil.
Heidi, and Tracy. How are you guys?
Excellent. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm good.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you guys.
So the first question I have for you, I mean, you've heard it probably a million times at this point, but what brought you into this business? Like, how did you get started with music videos?
Well, when I was younger, I was traveling around in a unknown punk band. And at the same time, I had a Super 8 camera. So the music videos surpassed the music pretty quick. So that's where I was. And started making kind of free videos at first for bands in that genre. Slowly worked my way up, had a few like minor 120 minutes videos for a while, back when they had that 120 minutes show on Sunday nights, which was awesome to see our videos on there. And then that kind of caught the eye of some bands that were making it to the major labels, and one thing led to another. I got some MTV hits, and Bare Naked Ladies heard about me and liked my stuff, and we did a video. I think the first one was in 1999, Get in Line, which is when I met everybody. They were pretty fun. We shot that in Seattle, and we just did a lot of work after that.
How did that Get in Line all come together? Because that is a really interesting video. First of all, I mean, all of your videos have this kind of thing where you're telling stories, and that one is really neat because, of course, you're telling stories from not only the cartoon, but also from Bare Naked Ladies' point of view as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly how that one came about, but if I remember correctly, I believe it came about through my commercial work. I was doing some stuff with Gap, and I was just starting with commercials, and I think through the TV show King of the Hill, they made a promo, I believe it was, for their show. And so I was working with the King of the Hill animators and producers and everything. And Bare Naked Ladies also were working with them. So we were both kind of like, you know, under their wing of what they were doing. But I learned a lot about animation at that time because, you know, we had to write treatments that worked with their show and their characters and everything. And so they were writing along with us. I came up with this idea of, you know, Bare Naked Ladies would be live action behind the scenes. They actually animated the Bare Naked Ladies a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I do recall that they said the characters for King of the Hill couldn't do anything that a human couldn't do. So like if they fell, you know, hard, unlike the Roadrunner and Coyote, they would actually get hurt, you know? So I remember them saying that. I'm like, okay, they're cartoons, but I guess that's the playbook of what they're working with.
That's cool.
Versus B&L, who if they fell hard like that, it was fine.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that was a real shoot because they got to act, you know. I remember we had cardboard or plywood cutout sets. And they played characters, you know, that would interact with animated characters that weren't there. I think everybody did a little something, including their manager at the time who showed up as Castro, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, that was a gas. I mean, it was really complicated too, because we had a lot of, even though it's kind of handmade, we had a lot of sets. It was a lot of green screen. We had to imagine where the house was, where the lawn was. Some of the sets that they interacted with were painted like animation. So that start with the basics of the video. I think actually now I remember it, we had a house flat painted on plywood. Yeah, I think that house was there. But man, it was a complicated shoot, you know. And it took, they actually send all that stuff to Korea to be hand frame by frame animated. Wow. And then it comes back. So I think the video took a few months to finish. Yeah. It was a good time.
I'm letting my co-host jump in. I'm trying not to hog all the time. So
sure. I mean, I've got questions. So Heidi, do you have something you want?
Yeah, Aaron.
Well, so I don't know if I missed the intro here, but I'm sure Tracy probably gave you an intro or was planning on. But just when I was researching your catalog, Phil, I'm seeing, I mean, Heidi and I both are total music nerds. So I'm seeing Not a Surf, Sonic Youth, the Cranberries, Local Age, Bare Naked Ladies, the Fratellis, Incubus, Foo Fighters, and one of my favorite bands of all time, Low. So I was just super excited to talk to you because, you know, you've worked with some amazing bands. You made some really cool videos. I think one of my favorites had to be what was it? Next Year by Foo Fighters, the Apollo 11 video. I was curious about that. And there's also there was the Cranberries one. What was the one where it
Just
was
My
like,
Imagination?
Yes, yeah. Where Dolores was like in the hot air balloon and stuff like that. So some really cool visuals. And I just was curious. I'm sure it differs greatly, you know, from project to project. But are you having bands come to you with a vision like, oh, I really want to do this, you know, like moon landing video? Or are you listening to songs usually and saying like, I have a vision here? Or is it to kind of just make a mixed bag depending on the situation?
Well, I'll briefly talk about those two videos, and then we can get back to Bare Naked Lady stuff.
So I'm always derailing with other
but I remember for the Foo Fighters, there's two different answers to that question. For the Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl had some really weird concept where he wanted to interact with retired soap opera stars. And I thought that was a really bad idea. I was like,
it's pretty niche.
One, you know, you wouldn't know kids wouldn't know who they are, and where do you get them? And it was really silly. I thought the song was really beautiful. I just skipped the idea because I thought that's a bad idea. And then I took NASA footage and cut it to to the song so they could get for it. And they loved it. And I was on the phone with Dave Grohl first introduction, talking about stuff. And he goes, hey, did you happen to see my my idea that I had that we sent to all the directors? And I said, no, I didn't see it. And he goes, oh, never mind. That doesn't matter anyway.
That was well played, sir. That was brilliant.
Yeah. And then for the cranberries, my wife Isabel actually wrote that idea.
Oh, nice.
I'm writing treatments all the time, and she's, walking around with headphones on, and she was just like imagining things or imagining her youth, to whatever you do when you're on a walk listening to music. And she said we concept, and she would imagine things, and that would take her away to like the animated world.
Very cool.
So that's where that one came
Thank you.
from.
That's really nice to know.
Dolores was awesome. And of course, Dave Grohl is a really funny guy. He's awesome. They're all, most everybody I work with are really good, because they appreciate the fact that, they have these really interesting jobs and they get to go play actor for a day or two. And I know the importance of music videos, especially then when MTV was huge. But even today, music videos really matter,
Absolutely.
I think bands are making more and more music videos to help them out in the world of the internet.
Absolutely.
Well, I loved the Foo Fighters video too. I'm a huge space history fan as well. So, and that like just always resonated with me watching the video back in the day. And growing up with MTV from 1981 on, and like really, I mean, all of my high school years were spent running home and watching videos, and the transition from just the more performance artist kind of video look from the early 80s through, because there wasn't any content, and this amazing influx of European artists and British artists, that because they were the only ones making things at the time, seeing how the music video then transformed into storytelling. And I think that's one of the things that you do so well. But what I love about some of the videos specific to Bare Naked Ladies is that retro kind of look that you give them. Like growing up as a kid in the 70s and 80s, like that Starsky and Hutch, very retro kind of look, especially to, and the quirkiness that you bring too. There's something very vibrant about the colors. The Cranberries video is so vibrant, and in what she's wearing and what it just pops so much. And that's similar to some of the stuff you've done with Bare Naked Ladies, because it's just pops and you feel like you're just in this incredibly vibrant world. It's like we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. It's very interesting. And so where did you get that eye from? Like what inspires you from artists and other musicians and things like that?
Well, one thing I try to do is I try not to follow trends, because every year there's a different music video trend, and a lot of music video trends actually then get put into commercials and even movies. And especially at that time period, music videos were often imitated, even techniques, like so tried not to keep up with those trends. I also like, European cinema, Japanese cinema, the poets of cinema. So I pretend, in my mind, can I do a little of that in my music videos, even though we're not making a Tarkovsky film or a Kurosawa. We just do these things, especially not with the Bare Naked Ladies. And then with the retro look and everything, I mean, all that stuff was shot on film. Everything we did was film. It's authentic film print, really important to the texture and the look. So we've always used that quality of stuff. It's very important, I think, to get a certain look, a certain texture. Film is really important, I think.
Well, music videos are little mini movies in so many ways, and I think that they've come so far in that they're way more respected as an art form than they were. Not trying not to age myself here, but 40 years ago, 30 years ago. well, no, about 40 years ago. And so it's really, I think you're right. The use of real film is so much better in so many ways. Yeah, they're putting a lot of things using just your phone now and things like that, but there's something about the quality of those videos, especially in the 90s 2000s era, that just seems like, again, you want them to be in a world for 3.5 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever the length of the song is. And they do really kind of tell a story. A lot of them tell stories way better than your live on stage videos where they're just doing what they would at any show. So I love that you're a fan of using real film.
Yeah, and then the quirkiness comes from the band. I mean, come on, they're the Bare Naked Ladies. I mean, how can you not be quirky? They're really great personalities. They really ham it up, let's admit it. They're hams. And so you just kind of go with that. You know, Ed and Steve, they just like to, put their faces right in the camera and do their thing. They still do. So, yeah, that's where the quirkiness and the look comes from, the color, the texture. I think that's, maybe my answer to all of that. It's just, I like to think of them as timeless, but, I don't know if they're timeless. If I showed them to a younger generation, they might think that looks really 90s, Dad. My son, for example. But I think of them as kind of timeless. At one point, they're driving around in a bunch of matching Pacers, I guess, I mean, obviously that's retro and they're really colorful, but it's also kind of quirky, timeless, I think.
But and even I was a huge Lisa Loeb fan because I really identified with her from like all through, and I still listen to her Sirius show that she has on Sirius XM. And the I Do video again harkens back to like the 1960s, and then you've got her laying in the bed, which reminds me of like some of the early 1960s play movies in her pajamas, and then you've got the black and white stuff, but you've got like the Motown girls behind her. So there's just kind of an innocence, which definitely connects to Lisa Loeb because she always had that kind of innocence, but but again, very quirky. But so when you are dealing with, because Lisa Loeb's a lot different than BNL, very different than Foo Fighters, very different than Bobby McFerrin. So when do you originally, or when you're thinking about, okay, how are we going to approach this song? How much do you talk to the artist? And do you storyboard it out? Do you say, I've got this idea, this vision for this song?
Well, when you don't know the artist at all before you've ever worked with the artist, it's kind of like a crapshoot. There's a whole bunch of directors writing from different production companies, all writing for the same song. The Bare Naked Ladies are releasing a record, and this is the first single, and they go out to every production company. Those production companies slam every director they have on these things. And so you could be working possibly with 100 music video directors, all writing like, I wonder what they should do. And then the bands read all this junk, the band will look fantastic. And of course, so it's kind of like, it's hard to know if you'll get the video or not. And usually one does not get the video. So I just take those treatments and I throw them in a pile and recycle them, update them with a new song if I feel it's a really good idea or a technique or something. But once you get in with the band and they're happy, then you got a relationship and they oftentimes come to you, hey, we want you to do our next one. And then now the door opens to some more collaborative processes where you really can get what the band's trying to do. They can hear you out. Maybe I come up with the idea, maybe they come up with the idea. And that's a really interesting way to work. And that's why sometimes I do have 5-6 videos with one band because there's a relationship. If we move on to the next video, I think I did was Pinch Me.
I was just going to bring up Pinch Me. Yeah, I love that video, and I've watched every second of it so many times to see everything. And I still, after all the viewings, haven't caught every little thing. I caught a new thing this week. But one of the things I had for a question was that thumb. Like, was that something the band brought to you that they were already working with? I mean, they used that on like all kinds of stickers and shirts and everything for years to come. They're still using it on shirts today.
Well, we created that. that was a graphic artist, Mike Newell, that we worked with. I had a company back then, Rick Fuller and I, and we were Harder Fuller Films. And when we put our little signs around Hollywood, everybody thought they were going to a porn site shoot, you know? And then Mike Newell did all our storyboarding and did all our graphics. So like the patches and everything for the Foo Fighters, all those little graphics are this guy, Mike Newell. Mike Swade, I think is his graphic name. And so he created that thumb and they liked it and they wanted to use it. And what I loved about the thumb, I think I came up with this idea. Sorry, this is getting to be a while ago, is I love the thumb because you could turn it upside down.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that you had them do that a couple of times during the video.
There was a lot of jokes in there where, you know, they would drink a milkshake like it's a fast food restaurant commercial. And it's always thumbs down. And I think now that I'm going back in time, I think Ed might have come up with that idea of do it in a fast food restaurant because he worked at a fast food restaurant. And so he played himself doing what he used to do. And he probably said, let's do a fast food restaurant. And I embellished the crap out of it, you know? And I actually saw them play about a few weeks back, and Ed was going off in front of the whole audience about the making of that video. He just stopped the whole show and said he saw my hat. He goes, Phil Harder's in the crowd. And he started going on and on about the making of that video. And what he reminded me when he was telling the entire audience that night, he goes, yeah, we were making Pinch Me video, and there was a scene where there's a bunch of hot dog buns, and they came out with about 6-8 packs of hot dog buns to do this scene. And Ed said, I remember you, Phil, said, we need a truckload of hot dog buns. Somebody get every hot dog bun in Los Angeles. And they went out and got a truckload, and not a small truck, of hot dog buns, because it's a scene where Ed is in a fantasy, like a musical, and he falls into thousands of hot dog buns. So anyway, he told that story at the show. So now I recall that is how it happened. But that we had to be very resourceful because it's quite complicated. There's dancers, there's all kinds of stuff, actors going on. And we got these matching pacers that we painted different colors. One thing I did that I thought was very clever, resourceful. You always be resourceful, even on a big budget, but especially low budgets. And that was a big budget. Was the interior set is some tables set up in, I think it's Universal Studios. So it's like, I think it's like an octagonal shaped restaurant or something like that. And the interior was set in Universal inside a big soundstage. And then I think we had a 2-day shoot. They took that outside and flipped it the other way for the exterior. So we used the same half set for interior and exterior. And we added the big Eat thing on top. They wanted the restaurant to be called Eat. I think that was Steve's idea. The restaurant's going to be called Eat. And then I remember there was this thing where we were trying to make this porcelain kind of, like, not porcelain, but plastic kind of big boy character up on the sign. And we couldn't figure out how to do it. It was getting really expensive. So I had someone from Minneapolis, who I forgot who it was now. She made a vinyl uniform, a chef uniform. And we did makeup on Steve and told him just to hold really still. Because there was like, we can do it, but it'll be about $150,000 to make an original. And no way, we're not doing that. And so he just held really still.
It was so much better for having done that.
Yeah, that worked amazingly well.
Because then he comes out and he dances with them. Like, that was just...
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I also love the Busby Berkeley inspiration where Ed's on the thumb and they're all doing a little reminiscent of Busby Berkeley. So I kind of like that inspiration as well. And I love the colors again. The rugby shirts. It's just good fun. Like, it's just fun.
Yeah, it's eye candy to the max. And we had good dancers and everything. And we did some backwards stuff. That was a crazy shoot.
I
One
can
of the
imagine.
things
Yeah.
I love about watching all of your videos, especially the B&L ones, but I mean every single video that I've watched throughout this last week as well as before, is not only are they stunning to watch, they're photographically and cinematically beautiful, but there's also always a story behind that whatever's going on. Like with Pinch Me, you have the showiness of that moment, but then there's that background story of this person who's not happy with the life that's going on for them, and everyone else around them is happy and going about even though everyone's the same. But then you have that one guy who doesn't feel like doing that and isn't happy with life. But the one that really got me was the Too Little Too Late video. You have like 4 storylines going on during that. Can you tell us like what you were creating when you were doing that? Like what the stories were that you were trying to tell with that?
If I recall, that was my idea. And that was an insane shoot. Like we had so much to shoot in 2 days. Usually you get 2 days, maybe one with a band. They're on tour, they're doing everything. And we had 2.5 days, now I recall. Because there's some commercials they made, like little fake commercials. And while we were doing wardrobe, usually do that preparation the day before the shoot. I said, hey, you guys, we're right here at the studio. Do you mind if we do some close-ups of you guys? We had 16mm film. And each one did a little commercial. So we got that out of the way, which ends up, while the other guys are going through wardrobe, we grab one guy, shoot a fake little, just in front of paper or something, So we did the mini little shoot there. And then we did the 2 big days. And what I worked into with that treatment was we can shoot anything, because if we got all the crew to sign a release. And if we're not ready, just shoot it. I don't care if the gaffer and the grips are walking around, just roll. And that worked out. And then it was really complicated because each band member had to play the crew as well. So they're directing themselves. So now we're shooting twice as much because you're doing Steve on this side talking to Steve on this side. And so we shoot this side and he's got an eye line, like a little something to look at right there. And then we shoot this side and he's talking to himself, and we're trying to put that all together, and then we were at Universal, so we could just use all the sets. It didn't matter. So we're in a cowboy movie. Steve is like, I'm done, I'm leaving. And there's a film within a film within a film.
Mm-hmm.
And he's even on the crane, and then he's in a wrong set, and he's in the Western set. Everything's there at Universal. So we said, we'll take it. We'll use that. I don't care. We shot everything. We even put them on a fake tourist bus as if they were people watching a Bare Naked Ladies shoot. And we had body doubles for the whole band. So when they look out the tourist bus, they're like, oh, look, it's the Bare Naked Ladies making a music video. And you see the backs of other people, and then it cut to close-ups. And what's pretty funny about we gave them each a video camera, and that was a mistake. Because
I can imagine
the Bare Naked Ladies like to get bare naked sometimes. And of course they think it's a big laugh when they give us the footage back.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was maddening. And if you watch that video, you're like, how did they do that all? It's because we just rolled on everything, constantly rolling, and nothing was wrong. Nothing could go wrong. Because if you're in the wrong set, if there's people in the way, whatever, it's all part of the production. It's the band making their own music video, directing themselves.
Which is a little different than the what's the other one? The drawings one.
Testing 1 2 3.
Thank you. Testing 1 2 3. That looked like it's one of my favorites, but that looked really complicated because it looks so simple, but I know that it couldn't be that simple.
Yeah. Just to finish with Too Little Too Late. I now remember that
Oh, I'm sorry.
we did. We always do storyboards for our videos, and we shoot them, and then we print out our storyboards. We do a little printout once we got it. We check it, and we keep going, keep going. So we actually follow a really strict script, and we always have too much to shoot, but we pack it in. So that one, testing 1, 2, 3. A friend of mine, Janet Lobrecht, made a little short film for our little cinema club using chalk animation. I thought it was brilliant. And so I paid for her to do more of it, as well as what she already did in this testing 1, 2, 3 video. So now she had all this beautiful animation, like the little kitty and all this stuff. And then she personally did, how did we do that? Oh yeah, we shot the band. Like, for example, Jim would hold his upright bass, and then he'd spin it, and then we had his arms positioned. We'd stop the camera, we would pull the bass away, and then we'd say, just, you muscle memory, do the same thing. So he sat there going like this, playing an imaginary bass, then he'd spin it. So what she saw cool. Before we were rolling, just the video footage before we rolled film, was footage of him doing it. So she could kind of follow the way a bass spins around, where it is in his hands, the size of it and everything. And then Jim kept his hand in the place because he knows where his hands would be on a bass. I didn't want him doing this, I had to make sure, otherwise she couldn't follow it. And so she rotoscoped that. She projected that film onto a chalkboard with a little video projector. Once we cut it, we edited it down before, so there's no waste. And then she projected it on the chalkboard frame by frame, animated the rotoscoping of them playing those instruments.
How long did that take her?
Days. She sat there with her remote.
I would imagine.
Click one frame forward, draw the bass, click, draw it again. Now Jim, click, he starts to spin, draw it, spin.
Wow.
Go. But she also had a model video to look at. Oh, that's how he does it. And we kept those kind of short. And then sometimes it got to a point where you could loop the animation. So he could just keep going. And then we could loop it, and we could save a lot of time that way too.
Right.
That was pretty fun.
Very cool.
It's very cool visually. I owe me a little bit of like the take on me concept with integrating art and like Kevin is an artist, and like it was really nice to see a tie to something a little bit different than we weren't used to.
Yeah, that was a really complicated video. Surprising, as you said, it's more complicated than it may seem.
So one of the things that I saw when I was doing some research, Phil, was that you worked with Quentin Tarantino's A Band Apart production company. Is that accurate? And what did you do?
I was a director for commercials and music videos through.
Was that the iPod commercial with the Fratelli?
No, that was Bob Industries, my next production company. A Band Apart, we did Target ads, Gap ads, HP, Verizon, all kinds of stuff. And then they also had a music video department, and that's where I did the Bare Naked Ladies videos through the first 3 or 4.
Well, the reason I brought it up was you mentioned shooting on film, and I know Quentin's a huge proponent of shooting on film, and I agree. As much as I think digital's come a long way, there's still something special about the way things look when they're shot on film. Is that something that you just took with you from your like punk DIY days, or was it just kind of providence? You ended up working with Quentin, who's also a very huge proponent of classic film, or does that kind of rub off on you, or did you talk about that at all?
Yeah, well, everybody loves film, the real deal, and also back then, before digital, you'd never shot like bad video. It looks like a soap opera. So
yeah.
In order to and direct like commercials, I don't know about TV, but films, of course, and music videos, you had to shoot film. And it's everything. The texture, nothing looks right if you don't shoot film. And then the invention of digital 24 frames a second, that kind of changed things a lot. Now digital 24 frames a second, especially with the high-end digital cameras, it looks really good. So that's not such an issue anymore.
But also, I think having it preserved on a physical medium kind of allows you to come back to it. Like we've seen, I think it was a few years back, everyone was freaking out over how good the Last Christmas music video looked because they remastered it because it was shot on film. So of course they can now show it in 4K, as if you shoot something on what was HD a few years ago, like 1080p or something. There's no way to do that other than like upscaling and using AI or something, but it never looks quite the same, like filling in pixels. Go ahead.
I just think film texture, or even with digital, extreme detail with texture is critical. It's the only way we can make good stuff, is to think about the texture, the colors, the aesthetics of film, whether it's like literal film or not. It's everything. You don't want to make a little crappy video that looks like you shot it in your backyard on your iPhone. I mean, actually, you do want to do.
Well, the iPhones are getting way better, but I agree. If I had the choice, I would shoot on film every time. So you mentioned that and
Quentin, sorry, yes, he was all about film.
Yeah,
I mean that's why the directors he had in his company, because we were, cinema aficionados. We thought, and we like the same things, and it doesn't have to literally be punk rock, but that's where it came from.
Absolutely.
So when I started working with the band apart and Quentin, the first thing I did was 3 Gap ads. Johnny Mathis, Everclear, and Rufus Wainwright.
That was a great one. I love the Rufus Wainwright ad. That was really good.
And those were live. You had to record them live, even though the Everclear one we edited, they did the song live. And Johnny Mathis, full orchestra, live.
Wow.
In camera. And but before that, we were doing music videos and getting some hits. I say we, Harder, Phillip Films, getting some minor hits. And the ad industry really liked them and started knocking on our door. One was a corner shop, Brimful of Asha, which, so many commercials copied the technique. And I was doing like a flip book technique, and I noticed Target stole that iPod like
yeah.
And that also was turned into commercials. And so they caught wind of that, and they said, "Hey, you want to do a Gap ad?" And I'm like, "What? I don't do that. What is this? Ads are stupid. F ads, And they said, no, these are really cool. They're like 30-second music videos. And I'm like, that's a pretty easy music video. 30 seconds. Sure, let's do it.
Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned Bobby McFerrin, Heidi, by the way, because while listing Phil's many bona fides, I completely forgot that he directed the music video for my very favorite Bobby McFerrin song, Circle Songs. I sung that song in my a cappella group in college, and that whole album is fantastic. That's not really a question. I just wanted to say what a great song and a great
when
music
video. When we shot that, I asked Bobby McFerrin to lip sync and do he's not singing words, but and he says, I don't know this. I can't.
Yeah, because it's all improvised.
Yeah. He goes, I can't lip sync it. I can't. I have no idea. I recorded it once, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
so how did you go about doing that? Like,
it was a pain. I remember we had
I can imagine.
He had to fake it, and I had to keep editing.
Yeah.
I think it was like
lots of takes and lots of edits.
Plays his body. And he'd listen to it for a while and kind of remember sort of how he did it. So we had to really fake it, which is the entire film in this.
Cool.
So with because I want to make sure we get through with the limited time we have all of the. So I'm thinking about another card, the disaster movie kind of aspect of it, chimp, and like thinking about like when Michael Jackson just wanted to be a werewolf, and that's how Thriller came about. And they made him into, he wanted to be a werewolf. Was it that the guys were like, hey, we want to do a disaster movie, like like a Godzilla or something like that?
I don't remember. One, I think I just said a giant chimp, and it'd be like a disaster movie, and they thought that was hilarious. Now this is like 4 or 5 videos in, and so we actually bought a bunch of Japanese or possibly 70s disaster scenes from some movies, and we purchased those with the rights. So that was kind of our background. Then we went old school with it, and we rear screen projected it behind them.
Oh, nice.
Minimal sets that were built. And so there's like this building falling over and over. I can't remember. I remember we had a whole bunch of styrofoam concrete, and they're all running. I said, you got to look up because there's a building in front of you, even though you can see this one behind that's being rear screen projected. So that's in camera.
Yeah,
you don't have to do effects. And then everybody would grab huge chunks of concrete and throw it at these guys, throw it up so it lands down on them, and they act accordingly. And there was one like massive piece of concrete that's about 4 feet big, and someone chucked it and it landed right on Tyler's head. And of course it hurts a little. So he gets hit in the head, and then he remembers, oh yeah, I'm supposed to act. So he gets
like a delayed reaction.
It bounces off his head, and then he goes, oh. I thought it was so ridiculous that we left it in.
And I love the climbing the CN Tower bit, a little ode to the big ape.
King Kong.
King Kong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't call me that.
God,
they didn't call me that since high school. Don't call me the big ape.
And then they played multiple roles too. They played the military coming to rescue the civilians. It was like the opening was a riff on one of the what was it? The opening sequence, Planet of the Apes. One of the knockoffs, really silly, with the circles. So they all had characters, and they used their porno names, I think, as characters. Their dog and their mother's maiden name. So anyway, that was the opening. They got to play multiple characters. We shot it in Toronto. We built a fake interior of the CN Tower, and that was green screen. And then we put the chimp in there looking at them, but they couldn't see that, And then for some reason, I decided they're supposed to blast off into outer space. I have no idea why. Like the CN Tower turns into a rocket and they take off with the chimp.
They saved the city.
Yeah. And then they take off. That was bizarre. God, what do we think of?
But all those old movies were bizarre like that. I think it fit so well with the motif that you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good time. Man, those were the days.
Yeah. Well, Phil, I am anyone who's an artist, I know you always get these questions, and it's sort of like making you choose amongst your children. But I was just curious if you had a favorite, both a BNL music video and in general music video that you've done.
Well, did we get through all the Naked Ladies?
Oh, we're still listing, I think.
Oh yeah, there's still You Run Away. Like I was gonna say, like they went and did some other videos with a couple other directors, and then their first video as a 4-piece, you're the person they choose to come back to. Like you're the person that you do their video that is kind of their comeback video. Like what was that like?
Well, we shot it in St. Paul, and it was 20 below zero. It was really an awful experience because, like, once again, it's stop frame like animation.
Mm.
And so they had to hold still as we dollied past them frame by frame, and someone was clear. They'd run around behind and get over here and hold still. And we did this super long dolly move. It's kind of step frame. It was the technique. And there's bicycle crashes and car crashes and all this stuff, but we're not shooting any of that. We're just having people hold still. And we dollied past them. And that's what we did. And we had an airplane scene where everybody was holding, everything was hung from monofilament lines as if it's an airplane crash. Yeah, that was a really wild one too. Just weird and weird techniques. I think we're just trying to invent something fun and weird.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that one yet, but I wanted to ask about, like, what was the storyline? Like, I know that there's always the storyline. Like, was the storyline for this video that was kind of running through it?
Kind of just snippets of life, like disasters and a woman just running. You run away, you run, run, run. And so she's running through all these like surreal worlds. There's a storyline. I don't always get too literal. That one might be a little bit literal. It's the idea of you run away. And it's just a bunch of snippets where we could do that technique. And it's like, once again, disastrous stuff. I guess that's what we do with Bare Naked Ladies. We just pick disasters.
I think it's funny though that like in that particular video, you have to look. There are so many little things that you find every time you saw it. Like, and in the plane scene specifically, like Jim's playing the bass, like he's got the bass on his lap, whereas Tyler's just dropped a pitcher of coffee, and it's like. It's so interesting to see what they're all doing. And it's easy to miss because it goes by really quickly as it goes throughout the fuselage. You know, it's just...
Yeah, we had somebody always in a rush. Someone was running. But the way they would run is they would hold still in a running position and their tie would be like wire. So it's blowing back, or their hair or whatever. And then we would pass by these like kind of statue 3D things as if we're moving the story forward, even though the story's stuck in time. And so sometimes we're circling around them and there's like a briefcase that's open and there's papers in the air, but every one of those pieces of paper are hung by monofilament lines with stands overhead. And the band, you know, they're worked right into it. So they're all doing.
So
and
they
in
were all
different
just
things. Like 1 minute, Tyler's got a martini glass, and the next minute he's eating a giant ham sandwich, and then, or no, he's got a bag. It looked like a sandwich. It looked like he was eating a sandwich or something.
Oh, he's throwing up.
And then like Kevin's getting punched in the face. Like it's just.
Tyler's got a puke bag from the airplane, and
it still looks like a sub sandwich.
Yeah.
It does have this look to it.
So a lot of them, they just made their own characters up, and then their job was to just hold still. So they would choose a pose. As soon as we went past them, I would say, okay, you're clear. And then we'd go past them again. So go over there, get ready, choose another pose. And so, of course, they would have fun poses. I'm surprised they didn't moon me, but you know, that's what they did. And they love doing that kind of stuff. They love pretending and play acting.
And that's pretty amazing. I thought it was something that was done digitally or something like that, but they were all those people were just holding still for that period of time. That's amazing.
It's all in camera. We might have slightly painted out a few visible rigs, such as a monofilament line, if you saw it. But for the most part, it's all in camera. Wow. It's an in-camera technique, which sometimes people don't appreciate that because, you think, well, everything's digital. You just do it through effects. But one, that's really expensive and really time consuming in post, and it's not as fun. And when you do it in camera, theatrically, let's say, I think it pays off. I think people see that. Like in the Pinch Me video, there was a moment where everybody was frozen in time, which is a little bit like the technique of you run away. Mm-hmm. But it's so simple. I mean, just everybody holds still. and we did it in slow motion so everybody could hold really still. And then Ed would walk around as if his whole world was suddenly frozen in 3 dimension. And it's such a simple technique. It's not brain rocket science. It's just like everybody hold really still and Ed's going to run around.
But it's so like it is such a visually interesting and intriguing thing that when you see that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you need to like move the camera on dollies and everything because you want to see the 3 dimension of a frozen moment. Otherwise, it'll just look like a freeze frame. So we're always dollying around or dollying past. So yeah, those were really weird techniques I'm proud of. and the band loved that experimentation.
I'm going to veer us away from BNL and over to the most recent one that you did, or at least as far as I know, which is the Kevin Hearn one, coming in from the cold that you did with him and Hugh Marsh. And okay, so what was the what was the idea behind the? I want to say like the instruments and these behind the scenes characters are made from this interesting kind of felt like material. Tell me more about that.
The artist is Don Porcella, and he's quite well known. He makes everything out of pipe cleaners.
Wow.
And his mother's actually a very famous quilt textile artist in the modern abstract form. And the way Kevin told me, he was in New York years ago, and he was about to have a meeting with Lou Reed to see if he could become Lou Reed's music, what do they call it? Basically, he does everything for Lou, from finding musicians to recording studios to rehearsals, just managing everything musically, like Lou's confidant for years, which he became up until Lou died. He was very close to Lou. And so he was at a coffee shop or something like that in New York, and he saw this little installation right next door. So he had little time, and he went in and he saw Don Porcella's work. And in there was a keytar. Then and there, he loved it. and he became friends with Don Porcella long ago. And all the way forward to 2022, when we shot it, released in 2023, he always wanted to work with Don. And that's just what we did. Don did amazing work, just these crazy, beautiful, just so much gorgeous stuff that he created.
Well, and, the keytar and the guitar and the microphone, like it is amazing. That is all made with pipe cleaners. Holy cow!
Yeah.
But the deer and the animals, like
yeah, for sure.
And then you have the one character that's very much like some of Kevin's drawings, the weird alien kind of looking character that's a lot like Kevin's artwork. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I love working with Kevin. He's such a sweetheart, and we've done a few music videos together. Gallerina a few years ago. Yeah, Kevin's just a gem of a person. You know, when I met him on Get in Line video in 1999, he was suffering from leukemia, and he went through a lot over the years. His brother, who worked on the Coming In from the Cold as the gaffer, you know, donated bone marrow to Kevin to save him. You know, it's a really powerful story, and it was great to work with the two brothers on that music video. You know, and Kevin's brother came up from Toronto, and we worked together, and we created this really bizarre. Here we are again, sort of like that Bare Naked Ladies, like a film within a film. We don't care if we see the crew, the dolly, all these things. We just created all these sets. We break the third wall. We just set up all these really simple, beautiful little sets. And Kevin just floats through riding the dolly. I love that video. It's so simple. It's like handmade. again, very colorful, like what you talked about with some of the other videos, because Don Pacello's stuff is so gorgeously colorful. And it's really involved, a lot of really weird characters that are made out of pipe cleaners. That becomes our world. And it's very handmade again. It's all in camera, very simple, a little bit of stop frame stuff, just like we did with the Bare Naked Ladies. It's the same technique.
I have kind of a silly question for you, because I know that you worked extensively with the band Low, and I tried to watch the Low movie the other day. Unfortunately, could not find the movie anywhere. So hopefully I'll be able to find it somewhere, because I am looking forward to that. But I came across the Breaker video, and I have to ask you, in jest, of course, did he hate you by the end of that video?
No. I'm still working with Alan Sparhawk, and we are now putting out the entire career of Low, because that was the Low video, the Low movie we did was in 2013, and we have since added 10 more years onto that. So there's a new film called Cue the Strings.
Ooh.
And it's
I heard about that.
29 years of Low.
That's amazing. I can't wait
again,
to
a
see
lot of
that.
that is film, fully restored film, pulled out of the vaults. And we are just starting to do some screenings of it, and we don't know exactly where we're going with it yet, but it's since Mimi Parker passed away in November, Alan and I decided to put all of this together. So it's a brand new movie, 29 years of Low film, 60 millimeter, authentic kind of thing. Just a really powerful piece, the story of a band, and it's just gorgeous. I saw it at a film festival. We're going to show it at the Walker Art Center. It's just a really fascinating trip through the entire. I don't know if there's ever been a band who's worked with one director for the entire career, from before they put out their first record till their very last show, like a month before Mimi passed away.
I heard Breaking Circus did.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see Cue the Strings. That sounds
I was gonna
amazing.
say, if it comes up to the Boston area, please let us know.
100% would travel to see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, once we figure out what's going to happen with that Low movie, hopefully you'll see it. We don't have plans for it yet, but that's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, if you do a road show and you come and do an introduction, it'd be great to see you in person, Phil.
Where are you guys located?
We're in Maine. Well, Tracy and I are in Maine.
I'm in New Hampshire.
Yeah, we're all in New England. We're in the New England area. So
Yeah.
If you come to Boston or thereabouts, that's easy enough for us to get down there.
All right. Well, I hope the movie comes there.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
All right. Well, I guess we're getting into the end of our hour.
We are.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you. Thank
100%.
you so much for spending the time with us.
Yeah.
It's just nice to get some insight to questions we've always just kind of had.
Yeah. Well, it's good to go down memory lane and think about these videos again. I've done so many videos that I can't remember everything about every video, but it is kind of a placeholder in my life, each video, Oh yeah, I remember we did that in 2001 and whatever. So thanks for having me, and thanks for being such big Bare Naked Ladies fans.
Oh, of course. And
Thank you for
before
your
you
time.
run away and it's too little too late, are there any pitches or plugs that you would like to give out there for people to go and see more of your stuff?
I have a feature film that's came out right during the pandemic. It's called Tuscaloosa.
Excellent film, by the way.
Yeah, it stars Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things. That's on Amazon and Apple TV and many others, Mubi and stuff. And then we have a new movie about the wrestling villain called Baron von Raschke that comes out in the fall. It's called The Claw, and that was his notorious move. He put that on your head and it was lights out. So it's the history of really old school wrestling but like my music videos, it's very quirky and it steps in and out of reality.
Cool.
I definitely want to see it now. So will it be coming to theaters, you said?
No, it'll be streaming in the fall. We have a distribution deal, and the release date, the film is finished. The release date is the fall. I don't know when the date is, but it's really weird and really fun. You imagine the theatrics of wrestling and then add a punk rock edge to it, and then, break reality as we enter the world of that theatrical, athletic, villainous side, and you got a humdinger of a story.
Oh, well, when that comes out, like when that's released, let us know and we will plug that all over our page.
You can find details on theclawfilm.com.
Yeah, and Baron von Raschke is actually a really sweet guy, and he's a gentle giant. He's a beautiful man, opposite of his horrible villain character.
That's usually true, I think, of those wrestlers who play the villains.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Phillip.
So good to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Bye.
Thanks, that was fun. Don't forget, no regrets, except maybe one.
To celebrate joining Pantheon Podcasts, Rock Camp, the podcast, the official podcast of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, is giving away a guitar signed by Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, Marty Friedman, formerly of Megadeth, and legendary shredder Zakk Wylde, plus our rockstar counselors like Vinny Appice, Monty Pittman, and more. To enter to win, simply follow, rate, and review our podcast on your preferred platform, and that's all you have to do. For more information, go to rockcamp.com/podcast.